Curiosity on the internet feels harmless until you realize the page is staring back. The dark web isn't a place so much as a dimmer switch, and what hides in that murk isn't always monsters. It's people with ledgers, scripts, and patience. These 4 allegedly true accounts landed in my inbox from folks who swore they clicked just to see, and then couldn't unsee the consequences. No maps, no how-to. Just a warning in the shape of stories. Sometimes the scariest thing you'll ever download is attention. First story came from a sophomore I'll call Bree. Winter quarter. Campus ringed with brown slush. Dorm radiator hissing like it had thoughts. A friend in her psych study group sent a late message. I found a list of creepy streams. Wanna laugh at how fake they are? It was past midnight. Bree's roommate was home for the weekend. The desk lamp cut a yellow circle on cinder block, and her laptop fan sounded like a small plane that would never take off. They followed a trail of vague directories, the kind that use numbers and colors like they're winking, and landed on a page with a blank video window and a countdown overlaying static. Tick down from 2 o'clock. Bree expected a jump scare ad. Instead, at 0, the static split into 4 squares, each a different room lit like an aquarium. A kitchen, a stairwell, a garage, a child's playroom. No faces. Just slow, patient camera moves and a chat sidebar that crawled with symbols she didn't recognize. A line of text slid across the bottom in plain English. Prove you're real. Type the color of your shirt. Bree laughed and typed black in a throwaway box. 10 seconds later, a hand appeared in the garage frame and pulled a black hoodie from a hook. Her scalp tingled, and she told herself it was a coincidence. She typed orange, a joke about the playroom mat. The camera in the kitchen panned to a fruit bowl. A hand lifted an orange, held it to the lens, and squeezed until juice ran. She closed the lid of the laptop and stared at the ceiling, heart drumming. When she opened it again, the chat box was empty and a single line waited beneath the video squares. Hello, BRI. Nice dorm. There was no webcam light. She was wearing an old club tee, not black at all now, and she realized the first answer someone else must have given had triggered the hoodie. But the name, her inbox, linked to the throwaway, used only her initials. The dorm name was on no public page she owned. The video split to a 5th square she hadn't seen. A grainy angle of a hallway with painted cinder block, a corkboard, a blue recycling bin. Someone off frame breathed through fabric. The chat filled with dots, disappearing as quickly as they formed, like someone was typing to her and deleting before committing to the send. Then a pizza driver knocked on her door. She hadn't ordered. The name on the slip was right. The number on the slip was hers. Cash paid online. She slid the chain, took the box without opening the door wide, and asked who placed it. The driver said a man called from a blocked number and told him to tell Bree this one's on me. Bree called campus police with the door bolted and a chair under the knob. Officers took a report. IT flagged her email for unusual forwarding rules she hadn't set. In the morning, a new thread was posted in a campus forum under a handle uncomfortably close to hers. We see you. Bree moved off that floor by spring. Second story came from a help desk tech I'll call Patrick. He wasn't chasing horror. He thought he was doing research. His company had gotten a tip that credentials from a small vendor were circulating. Patrick went home with takeout, opened his personal laptop instead of the hardened work machine, and used a search engine that promised privacy to find chatter. He found a thread that mocked the vendor's security with pasted screenshots and a link labeled mirror. He hovered, told himself he'd use a sandbox later, then clicked because curiosity always wants 5 minutes now. The page was a paste of logins and an attachment named in a way that suggested it had been pulled and zipped in a hurry. Patrick didn't download it. He didn't need to. 2 minutes later, while he skimmed, his cursor twitched. Then his webcam light flashed, off on, like someone testing a switch. He covered it with a sticky note, yanked the Wi-Fi toggle, and told himself it was a driver glitch. When he turned the wireless back on, a new email arrived to the account he never used for work. We can help with your vendor problem, Patrick. He hadn't typed his name anywhere that night. The message body contained no links, just 3 screenshots. His open thread, his desktop with the takeout receipt window, and a notepad file he hadn't opened that now said Hello P. The subject line updated itself in his inbox while he stared at it, cycling through words like a slot machine. Verify, offer, warning. Then the phone on his table buzzed with a call from a masked number. He didn't answer. A minute later, a text arrived. Answer or we email your supervisor. Patrick did the right thing after doing the wrong one. He shut the machine, unplugged it, and called his company's security hotline. The on-call analyst told him to bring the laptop in physically and not to connect it again. Forensics later showed a drive-by script on the thread he visited had probed his browser, found a plugin behind on patches, and flipped a small switch. It didn't need admin to take a peek. It just needed an open window. The screenshots were real. The notepad message was written from his own keyboard. He never clicked again. Third account came from a junior named Noah who took pride in not scaring easy. He wasn't hunting for red rooms. He rolled his eyes at the myths. He was the guy friends texted when they wanted a rumor debunked. It was snow week. Campus quieted under a crust of ice that made every step sound like breaking glass. He was at his desk at 12:31 a.m. Space heater humming, roommates gone, and a link glowing in a group chat from a kid he barely knew. LOL, look at these idiots pretending to sell people's phones. Noah clicked through a couple of mirrors and landed on a list that looked like a lost spreadsheet. Device models, partial emails, and notes that read like inside jokes. He told himself it was faked data stitched together to impress freshmen. A chat bubble slid from the bottom corner, not a pop-up, part of the page. Prove adult. Type last 3 of your cell. Noah smirked and typed 3 numbers that weren't his. The page blinked. Another try. Carrier verify failure. He closed the tab, walked to the kitchen for water, came back, opened a different browser, and forgot about it until his phone screen jumped to no service. He did the things you do on autopilot. Airplane mode on off. Restart. When it came back, a flood of texts waited like a bad weather alert. Then the line went dead again. His roommate's number lit up on the laptop. Bro, is your Insta hacked? You just DM'd me a link and then asked for my code. Then Noah's email pinged 3 times with new sign-ins he didn't recognize, followed by an automated carrier message. Your SIM swap request is complete. If you did not request this, contact support. He stared at the words request is complete like they'd been waiting for him to notice all night. The door buzzer sounded downstairs. He almost leaned out the window to ask who, but his screen flashed again. A note from a throwaway address that included his first pet's name, spelled right, and the color of the bike locked to the railing outside. Pay us to reverse or we try your bank next. He didn't answer. He unplugged his router, pocketed the frozen phone, and walked to the 24-hour campus police window with his shoulders up against the wind. Inside, under fluorescent buzz, he tried to explain that a web page just asked him for 3 numbers and then his life started sounding like a chorus of his own passwords. IT Forensics later told him the link he clicked had a script that poked his browser, scraped an autofill cache he didn't know he'd left on, and made a phone call to a helpline with a voice that sounded enough like him to pass the first step. They didn't need to teach him the playbook. They only needed him to open the stage door. He got the number back after a day and a half of paperwork and in-person verification. He never got all the accounts back. The worst part wasn't the loss. It was the moment at the window, watching the clerk type his name and ask him to repeat his address, knowing someone else had been doing it 2 minutes earlier. Fourth came from a woman I'll call Elise who worked nights shelving at a library branch and spent her days combing archives for her thesis about vanished message boards. She treated the internet like a museum of haunted houses. Doors you could open but shouldn't step through. A friend in digital history sent her an invite code to what looked like a collected snapshot of old forums. It wasn't a marketplace. It looked academic, text-heavy, sepia banner, footer links that didn't lead anywhere. She clicked because it felt like home. The collection was organized by theme: health scares, lost pets, neighborhood watches that had curdled. She followed a thread about a neighborhood she once lived in and did that human thing we all do. She let nostalgia lower her guard. One post had a map that looked like someone's memory of the streets. Not quite right, landmarks labeled with nicknames only a local would know. Her cursor hovered over a pin and a message popped. To confirm access, enter an address you lived at before 2015. She typed her freshman year dorm, a building name everyone in her city would recognize. The page thought, then redrew the map to center on her current block anyway. Welcome back, Elise. She hadn't typed her name. She told herself it was cached someplace harmless, a profile she'd left signed in. The thread scrolled by itself to a post that looked like it had been written that afternoon. It listed 3 of her neighbors' first names and the time each usually picked up packages from the lobby. Cameras, she thought, or a bored concierge. The next line made her swallow air wrong. Tonight 8:30 EL blue coat. Elise glanced at her own sleeve. She was wearing one. She stood and went to the peephole. The hall was empty except for the carpet's pattern and a flyer about laundry etiquette. Her phone rang from the table with her late father's ringtone, which she hadn't heard in years and didn't remember saving to this device. She let it go to voicemail. A text followed from a new number. Open the door and wave. She didn't. She picked up her keys, walked into the bathroom, and turned the shower on to fog the mirror, then texted her neighbor 2 floors down to meet her by the stairs. On the way out, she slid an envelope and a library barcode through her own mail slot so it would lie visible inside the hall. She and her neighbor waited in the stairwell until they heard the elevator ding. Voices. A delivery driver, real by the weight of the insulated bag, called her name to no one. The door to the hall opened and shut. Feet moved past her door. A minute later, the neighbor's phone buzzed with a picture from a group chat that monitors the building's common spaces. A still of Elise's corridor with a man in a gray hoodie bending to pick up an envelope through her slot. He held it to the camera like a fisherman with a catch, then slid it back. The caption read, "He's filming himself? Is this a prank?" The driver left the bag at her door without knocking again and rode the elevator away, humming. When Elise and her neighbor returned, the bag was gone. The envelope lay where she'd left it, damp from the hallway air like a tongue had pressed the paper. Elise turned off every device with a speaker. She walked to a precinct instead of calling. Detectives told her they'd had reports of a group that scrapes public lobby cameras and delivery apps, building collages that feel intimate because they are made of things we all forgot we were sharing. She changed her routines. Different exits, different hours, borrowed coats. For a week after, an unknown number sent her photos of corners near her building taken a minute before she walked by them. Like the city had learned her route and wanted to brag. She never answered. The messages stopped when she stopped reading them in real time. Here is the contrast no PSA can sharpen for you. People think the dark web is a vault you break into and either find nothing or find hell. But most of what scared these 4 didn't require a lockpick or a mask. It required a nudge they supplied themselves. 3 digits to look older. A single click because a coworker was careless. A map that felt nostalgic. A stream that looked like a joke. Doors aren't always kicked in. Sometimes they're opened from the inside because someone asked politely and you wanted to be the kind of person who answers. If you're expecting a moral, there isn't one as clean as a lock. You can armor up, ask IT to speak slowly and write down the steps, tape over the tiny I on your laptop. You can keep your number on paper and your inbox hungry for nothing. But the real defense is older and harder. It is the discipline to let the question hang unanswered. It is the patience to let the countdown hit 0 and still not watch. It is the small, unfancy decision to close a tab before it becomes a window into your life.